Good morning, fourth grade. Today you have lesson 91, and this is more practice with fractions and all of the steps. So I really encourage you to try a lot of these on your own because this is the part that really it just takes practice. I know all of you know every step. Like you've shown me, you know each step individually. Now it's just putting all the steps together. So the green box says when an improper fraction in the sum is changed to a mixed number, add the whole number in the mixed number to the whole number that is already in the sum. So that's where I was showing you last week, where if we have more than one in our fraction side, then we carry it over to our tens. Okay, so we start with our fractions, and they still have the common denominator, so that's still the same. So we're going to do 7 plus 1, which is 8, plus 5. So I have 13 eighths. Okay, so I'm going to show you two ways you can do this. You can stop right here and change your improper fraction. This is improper because 13 is greater than 8. That means we have more than one whole. So I'm going to do it this way because I like to show that fractions are not yet a whole number. But then we carry it over to our first whole number. So in order to change a fraction into a mixed number, remember this division or this fraction bar also means divide. It literally means 13 divided by 8. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, that goes in there one time, which is 8. When we subtract it, we have a remainder of 5. So my fraction is 5/8. Okay, so far you just learned to carry over the 1, but now today we see that you also have a fraction. So the fraction is going to stay there. I made it green to show that 13/8 is no longer existing. We converted it to 1 and 5/8. So now I'm going to carry my 1 over to the whole numbers. It's still in the ones place value because it's a single 1, but it's a whole number, so it's no longer a fraction. And then the 5/8 that is green is going to replace that 13/8. Okay, so 5/8, and then I'm going to erase that. I'm going to move it over because I'm going to put my whole answer together. Okay, so then I have 1 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 1. And then I have 2 plus 1 plus 3. So that's 3 plus 3 is 6. So now, somewhere where you have room, so I could write it right down here like I started to, I have 61 and my 5/8. Okay? That's the first way you can do it. The other way you can do it is solve all of it and then go back and change the improper fraction. So that's what I'm going to show you now. Now, I have to always check and make sure that my 5/8 is the lowest possible term. So I have to think, what are my factors of 5? Well, they're just 1 and 5. Can 5 be divided evenly into 8? No. So that means my fraction is at its lowest term, so I'm going to circle it to show that's the answer that I'm turning in. All right, I'm going to do B the second way. So the first way, I converted my fraction right away. That is my favorite way. It's a way that's not usually taught, but I like it, like I said, because it changes a fraction into a whole number, and we put the whole number there immediately, like we're carrying it over. But you could do it this way. So I'm going to show you the second way. So we have all common denominators. So I have 7 plus 6, which is 13 plus 10 more. So I have 23 11ths. Okay, I'm going to leave that there for now. And I'm going to add my one side. I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 1, 2, 3. 38 and 23 11ths. Okay, so now I solved it, but I have an improper fraction here. So I need to change that. So I'm going to divide 23 divided by 11. And I know that goes in at 2 times, which makes 22. So when I subtract it, I have 1 left over, so I have 1/11. So now, this 23/11 no longer exists because I converted it into 2 and 1/11. I need to take that 2, the whole number 2, and add it on because, and 1/11. I'm adding my 2 and 1/11. So now I have 1/11 as my fraction. 8 plus 2 is 10, and 3 plus 1 is 4. So my new fraction would be 40 and 1/11. And so I would circle it, 40 and 1/11. So the difference between how I solved the two, this first I converted it and added it into my problem before I finished my problem. The second way, I solved all of it, then I converted it, and I added it, like I did a whole completely new section. I did add, and then that's what this was here, was my 2 and 1/11. Okay. All right, I will do one more with you, and then I want you to, I take that back. I'm going to have you try those ones because this is really the only new thing is that you have a whole number and a fraction today. Okay, so please remember to circle your answer so I know that like you're not meaning for this part up here to be your fraction or your answer. Okay, that's just your work. And please leave your work, don't erase it. All right, part 2 says reduce each fraction to the lowest term. Lowest term means that you can no longer have any number that can divide into both of these numbers. That's why we use the greatest common factor, and that's why we learn that. So now, the biggest hint is anytime you have 2 even numbers, it can get reduced again because it means it can be reduced by 2. But the number 2 is not always the greatest common factor. So what I would recommend doing, list out your factors of the smallest number. Okay, so the numerator. Out of 1 and 2, we never use 1. So that means for this one, I'm going to divide both of them by 2. So divide by 2, divide by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So my fraction reduced to the lowest possible terms is 1/9. And I know that's the lowest because we cannot get any smaller. We cannot get any lower than 1. Okay, let's move over and let's practice 8/20ths. So for 8, I have 1 and 8. I have 2 and 4. And 3 does not work. So those are my 4 factors. Now, which one of those factors can also go into 20? When I skip count by 8s, do I say 20? No. So I'm going to cross that one out. When I skip count by 4s, do I say 20? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Yes. So I'm going to use the number 4 to divide both of my numbers. Divide by 4. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. And 20 divided by 4 is 5. So 2/5. So now let's see if it is the smallest possible term. Can 2 be divided evenly into 5? 2, 4, 6. No. So that means that it's my lowest term. Also, 5 is a prime number. That's why we learned prime numbers. Prime numbers cannot be divided anymore. All right, I will do one more with you. Okay, so I'm going to list out my factors of 15. So I have 1 and 15. 2 is not because 15 is not an even number, but I know that 3 and 5 work. And 4, 8, 12, 16, 4 does not, and now I'm at 5, so I'm done. Okay, can 15, when I skip count my 15s, do I say 40? Well, that's not something we usually skip count by, so we can add them off to the side. 15, 30, 45. So nope, I cannot use 15. Next number is 5. Are both of these numbers divisible by 5? Yeah, because in our divisibility rule, 5 can be divided evenly if the number ends in a 5 or a 0. So that means let's use the number 5. So divide 15 divided by 5 and 40 divided by 5. 15 divided by 5, we count by 5 until we get to 15, so that's 3. And then 8, 3 eighths. 3 is a prime number, which means I cannot make 3 any smaller. 8 is not a prime number, but there's nothing that would go into 3 and 8. So 3 eighths is my smallest. Reducing means make smaller. If I say we need to reduce the waste or reduce our recycled papers, it means we're getting less. We're making it smaller. That's what reducing a fraction means. Okay, on the back side, write the quotient, so you're just practicing your division. Now, number 4, draw each figure. You may use a ruler. Practice these. I'm not going to go over them with you. You might need to look up in your binder, but remembering our different types of triangles is part of a 4th grade standard. You have to know them. So it's going to keep showing up on your homework, but just randomly. So what is a right triangle, an isosceles triangle, and an equilateral triangle? Now, the 2 that I would recommend learning, you should know everything that's a right angle, a right triangle. You need to know that that means 90 degrees. The other one that we talked about is that equilateral says equal. So that means something in the triangle has to be equal. So look up what that is. And then once you know those 2, there's only 3 types of triangles. You have either a right triangle, an equilateral triangle, or you have an isosceles. So then that leaves you with the isosceles left. All right, then practice measuring each line to the nearest 1/4 inch. So that means when you divide your ruler into 4ths. Now, a lot of your rulers have 8 spaces. So the 4ths will be the bigger lines. They're not as big as the halfway line, but they're also still bigger than each 1/8. And then it wants you to use your ruler to draw these lines. So 4 inches, 5 1/2, and 1 1/4. And then you have your clever cranium as bonus. All right, if you have any questions, please raise your hand. Good luck.